Well, welcome once again to Start It Up here on ZDNet. This is where we talk to technology startups about what could be the next big idea. And with me is Leo Venegas from ScriptRock. Now, I need to get my head around this. So this is all about configuration testing, I guess. And,
that's right.
And in the corporate space. So large businesses got a massive configuration files that they're trying to make head and a tail of. Spending a lot of time trying to understand exactly what's happening.
Yes.
That's pretty much what the situation that you're trying to change. You're trying to speed up that whole process for them.
Definitely, yeah. So basically, at the moment, organizations have issues around testing configuration.
Yeah.
They have manual processes. What our tool allows them to do is to automate the testing of those configuration settings.
Right.
Maybe I can start off with by just describing what we mean by a configuration setting.
Please. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So let's dumb it down so I understand what we're talking about.
No. Okay, so let me give a phone as an example. So this phone is a system. Okay, so it has hardware, it has an operating system, and it has applications. It also has between 50 and 100 configuration settings, which I can change in order to customize the phone for my personal use.
Yeah.
For example, I can change, connect to my Wi-Fi network at home.
Yeah.
I can configure the mail server to retrieve my email,
yeah.
and I can tell it to notify me when an email comes in. So this is quite a simple system, and it has 100 configuration settings. Multiply this by 1,000 in terms of complexity, and that's what a typical enterprise system looks like.
Yeah.
They have tens of thousands of configuration settings that they need to maintain in perfect order in order for that system to work as expected.
And that's why in the corporate space, whenever a change is made to that system, it's always such a big ordeal, because you have this whole series of tests that have to follow to say, we've changed this, what could it potentially have broken in the process?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the biggest problem, I guess, is that so when these systems first get put into production for people to use, companies will spend months, in terms of testing to make sure that these systems are configured correctly and running properly. Later on, when they start making changes to the systems, change windows are usually a limited amount of time. So they'll have half an hour or an hour to deploy their changes, right? So these are system upgrades, application upgrades, new functionality that that the customers expect. Now, I just said that they took a month or many months to test the system, and they're doing a change that takes half an hour, which means that they only have maybe 15 minutes to test their change. So in the overall scheme of things, it's testing a very, very small percentage of the end-to-end in terms of a system. So what that means is that changes to complex systems are very risky.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a critical system, it's very high risk. And the reason for that is that if there's instability in the system or there's downtime in the system, it can cost companies millions of dollars in some cases. And also, it could result in reputation or damage to the reputation of the company.
And I guess as well, I mean, there's two other factors here on. I mean, one is that those systems are, I'm sure, getting far more complicated as we throw in mobility and BYO devices and all that sort of stuff. I mean, just making everyone's life a nightmare. And secondly, companies are getting more competitive, and you can't do stuff slowly. So the upgrades and system changes are becoming, I mean, you can't say we're going to do it slowly, because the competitors will be doing it faster and getting a leg up, I guess. So all of that's creating the perfect storm, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So basically, what ScriptRock allows companies to do is to automate the testing of these configuration settings, to capture all the knowledge that's in people's heads. And the beauty of it is that you can actually download this executable documentation and run it directly on your systems. So there's thousands of configuration settings can be tested across many hundreds of servers in a few minutes.
Right.
So yes, it allows them to be more agile. It allows them to reduce the risk around change, and obviously they can make changes faster.
But how to do that? You've got to understand how changing the configuration here is going to change something over here. I mean, you must have a. So it's in effect, it's a knowledge base, is it?
Exactly, it's a knowledge base. And this information right now, it's stored in Word documents within an organization's Excel spreadsheets or in people's heads, right? And they have to perform this test manually, right? They have to read a Word document and perform an action. So ScriptRock is a documentation knowledge base. People who know the system the best work together to capture their knowledge, we convert that knowledge into an executable test.
Right.
Without them having to write any code. We auto-generate all the tests for them, and they just download and execute them locally on the machines.
But couldn't there still be unexpected consequences? I mean, even if everything's documented well, I mean, we're talking about, you talked about tens of thousands of permutations. I mean, things could still go wrong, couldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about, building this knowledge base is that, say, for example, that you've got 10,000 checks across all your servers, right? Something goes wrong, you can execute that test suite across all the machines. If something does go wrong, okay, at that point, it's not any of those things that you've just checked for.
Right.
So you will spend the time to troubleshoot and work out what actually happened. As soon as you find out what it was, you can just add a test to the test suite, and then next time it will actually pick that issue up, and
right.
you won't have to troubleshoot it again. So that's,
right.
that's the idea.
So, and companies haven't had anything like this before. This is a new idea, is it? Or I mean, it seems, if it is, it sort of seems like an obvious thing to do.
Yeah, look, it's not that it's a new idea. So I think people just haven't had the right tools. So testing has been around for a long time. People have, built automated test scripts, but they usually have to do that manually. So they have to write code, they have to build these custom scripts, right? What's new about ScriptRock is that we allow people to come to the platform with a test requirement, use a set of templates that we've made for them, and they can walk away with an executable test in a few minutes and without having to write any code. And that's what's unique about what we do. We auto-generate all those tests for them, and it's just really easy to basically build out your test suite to check your systems.
Right. And this is all stored in the cloud, is it? Or I guess it doesn't matter where it's stored, really.
So we have a hosted version of ScriptRock, and we also offer an appliance that organizations can deploy behind their firewall. So there's two kind of deployment options.
Right. Yeah. Talking about the cloud, I mean, companies that are taking stuff from systems from on location to actually, on the premises to actually trying to put it in the cloud. I guess that's I mean, can your solution help with that? Because that's a lot of work and a lot of testing, I should imagine.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's actually, we've been working with Amazon AWS here in Sydney. Yeah. And so they approached us because they see that ScriptRock is a tool that they can get their customers to use in order to allow them to transition to the cloud faster. Yeah. So the way it works is that customers can build a test suite against their existing systems, that they can then take this test suite and run it in the cloud, and they know, I guess, what the progress is in terms of the migration. So if you had 1,000 tests and you run them on day 0 against your cloud infrastructure, everything will fail. Yeah. But as you start moving things across to the cloud, you run the test suite, and maybe 30% of the test suite passes. Once you reach 100%, you know that this cloud infrastructure is the same as your hosted internal infrastructure. Right. So that's bad. So it just speeds up. It reduces the time to get them moved across.
So are you alone in this space, or have you got a few significant competitors who are trying to do the same thing as you?
Look, actually, surprisingly, there's no one in this space doing the same thing that we do. There are companies who focus in things like security, security testing. The good thing about ScriptRock is that we're kind of like a general platform, so we can do security testing as well. We do configuration testing. And the beauty of our system is the simplicity of it. So there are tools out there that basically require a lot of training in order for people to use them. With our system, you can kind of spend 15 minutes and you're able to write tests, which means anyone can use it within an organization. So you have developers, you can have testers, you can have people in infrastructure teams, everybody working together on a single platform, capturing all their knowledge and building out this very critical asset, right? So it's a very important asset at the end of the day for the organization, because it captures everybody's knowledge and gives them a way to confirm that the configuration of the systems is correct.
And have you got many customers so far? I mean, having AWS give a sort of like a seal of approval is a pretty good recommendation, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Look, so yeah, we do have customers. We have customers in Australia and customers overseas. We're talking to several large enterprise customers here in Australia. We have people using in production in financial services and insurance. So yes, look, we've had quite good traction. We've had lots of interest, and look, it's exciting to give people a new way of working, basically.
And how long's the business been going for?
The business started in January. So we took part in the StartMate incubator program.
Yeah.
So we started in January, and went through the program. Yeah, it's first year, and we raised a fair bit of funding from really high-profile investors, and so we have an office here in Sydney, and we also have an office in San Francisco, and there's 10 of us at the moment, and actually we're growing and hiring people, and so we're doing well so far.
Right. Okay. Well, look, this is the crunch time. This is where you really discover whether you're going to be a success or not. What does the ZDNet audience think? Because they've got an opportunity to, just underneath this video, they can vote and say whether you think the idea is a sound one and whether the business is going to be a success or not. Let's see what they say. But appreciate your time and thanks for coming in.
Thank you.